Listen, what just went down with Shedeur Sanders is bigger than football, and if you're not paying attention, you're missing the entire point of what's happening in Cleveland right now. This young man just stepped into the spotlight and said something that has every analyst, every coach, every executive in the NFL questioning everything they thought they knew about handling elite talent. And I'm telling you right now, this moment is going to be studied for years because what Shedeur is doing is revolutionary in ways most people haven't even begun to understand yet. The Cleveland Browns are sitting on something special, and they're treating it like it's radioactive material they're afraid to touch. Meanwhile, Shedeur is over there, operating on a completely different wavelength, a frequency that most organizations simply cannot comprehend because they're too busy panicking about quarterly results and weekly headlines. This isn't your typical backup quarterback situation where some young guy is frustrated and complaining to reporters. This is a masterclass in spiritual discipline disguised as a football story, and the layers to this thing go deeper than anyone realizes. You want to talk about what separates good players from legendary ones? It's not arm strength. It's not 40-yard dash times. It's not even talent, though that matters. It's the ability to maintain absolute composure when everything around you is falling apart, when the world is questioning your value, when the organization that drafted you is treating you like an afterthought. That's what we're watching here. Shedeur Sanders is demonstrating something that cannot be taught in quarterback school or learned from film study. He's showing us what it looks like when faith meets talent at the highest level of professional sports. Think about the position he's in right now. He's the backup quarterback for a franchise that has systematically destroyed the confidence and careers of more young quarterbacks than any other team in modern NFL history. The Browns have a graveyard of failed prospects, a museum of what could have been, a hall of broken promises and shattered dreams. And here comes Shedeur, walking into that environment with a piece that makes absolutely no logical sense unless you understand where it comes from. He's not naive, he's not ignorant of the history, he's simply operating from a place that transcends all of that noise. When Shedeur talks about being done fighting, people need to understand what he's really saying. He's not surrendering. He's not giving up. He's declaring independence from a system that wants him to play their game, to engage in their drama, to feed their narrative machine. He's saying, I'm not participating in the circus anymore because I know who I am and I know whose I am. That's power, real power, the kind that can't be taken away by a depth chart or threatened by a coaching decision. The Browns organization is built on urgency culture, this desperate need to fix everything immediately, to find instant solutions to decades of dysfunction. They draft a player and expect him to carry 40 years of failure on his shoulders, like it's his responsibility to undo all their mistakes. That's an impossible burden, and it breaks most young players. But Shedeur isn't carrying their baggage. He refuses to inherit their trauma. He's writing his own story, and he's doing it with such grace and maturity that it's making everyone around him uncomfortable. Dillon Gabriel is the starting quarterback, and we have to acknowledge that reality. Kevin Stefanski has made his choice, planted his flag, and committed to his guy. But here's what makes this fascinating. Stefanski is coaching for his job right now. Every decision he makes is weighted with the knowledge that if this season goes sideways, he's probably done in Cleveland. So he's doubled down on Dillon because admitting he was wrong about the evaluation, admitting he might have missed on the 5th round pick who's sitting behind his guy, that's essentially writing his own pink slip. That's the politics of the NFL, the chess game that happens behind closed doors. What's wild is that Shedeur sees all of this. He understands the game being played. He knows why he's not getting reps in blowout wins. He knows why he stayed on the bench during blowout losses. He's not blind to the politics or the favoritism or the clear organizational preference, but instead of fighting it, instead of creating drama or leaking stories to the media or demanding a trade, he's doing something radical. He's trusting the process, not their process, but God's process, and that's what has everyone shook. Every practice rep that goes to someone else, every game where he doesn't see the field, every press conference where his name isn't mentioned, it's all fuel. It's all material for the comeback story that's being written in real time. Because here's what the Browns don't understand about patience. It's not passive. It's not weak. Patience is active preparation, meeting divine timing. Shedeur is using every single day to get better, to study more film, to perfect his craft, to build his mental game to a level that will be unshakable when his moment arrives. The comparison to what happens in garbage time around the league is striking. Other teams use those situations to develop young quarterbacks, to get them live reps, to see what they have in game speed situations. Miami had their backup, and during the same game Cleveland refused to play Shedeur. That tells you everything you need to know about the organizational mindset. They're not thinking about development. They're not thinking about the future. They're thinking about protecting their current choice, their preferred narrative, their egos. But protection born from insecurity always fails eventually. You can't hold back talent forever. You can't bury purpose under politics indefinitely. Reality has a way of breaking through no matter how many layers of denial you stack on top of it. And when it does, when circumstances force their hand, or when the obvious becomes undeniable, all that resistance is going to look foolish in hindsight. The same people who doubted will claim they always believed. The same analysts who questioned will act like they saw it coming all along. Shedeur recently said something that reveals his mindset perfectly. He talked about how it's not his place to question why, how it's not in his control, how there are people who would love to have the opportunity he has just to be at this level. That response is stunning in its maturity. Most young players would be bitter. Most would be complaining publicly or privately. Most would be letting their frustration leak out in subtle ways. But Shedeur is expressing genuine gratitude for being exactly where he is, even when where he is doesn't match where he thinks he should be. That's next level consciousness. Think about what Cleveland fans are feeling right now. Decades of disappointment have created a fan base that's desperate for hope, starving for something to believe in. They've been through the heartbreak so many times that they've developed scar tissue around their optimism. But there's something different about Shedeur. The way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the calm confidence that radiates from him. It's giving people permission to hope again, and he knows that. He said explicitly that he's there to change their long drought of disappointment. He's not running from that pressure, he's embracing it. The reception from Browns fans has been overwhelmingly positive, and that's significant because Cleveland fans can smell authenticity from a mile away. They've been sold false hope so many times that they've developed incredible discernment. They can tell the difference between media hype and genuine substance. And what they're seeing in Shedeur is real. It's authentic. It's grounded. This isn't some manufactured persona designed to win over the local media. This is who he actually is, and people respond to that. What makes this situation so compelling is the contrast between Shedeur's peace and the organization's chaos. While the front office is having emergency meetings and debating strategy and second-guessing every decision, Shedeur is steady. While coaches are feeling the pressure of job security and making decisions based on fear, Shedeur is operating from faith. While the media is creating narratives and hot takes and controversy, Shedeur is staying silent and letting his preparation speak. That contrast is stark, and it's revealing. The Browns have always functioned best in chaos. Their organizational DNA seems to require drama and urgency and crisis management. Give them a peaceful situation and they'll create turmoil because that's what feels familiar. But Shedeur won't participate in that cycle. He refuses to feed the dysfunction, and that refusal, that peaceful resistance, is more disruptive to their system than any rebellion could be. You can't manipulate someone who won't play the manipulation game. You can't pressure someone who's already surrendered the outcome to something higher than themselves. Here's what's going to happen, and you can bookmark this moment. Eventually, circumstances are going to force Cleveland's hand. Whether it's injury or performance or fan pressure or some combination of factors, Shedeur is going to get his opportunity. And when he does, when he finally steps onto that field as the starting quarterback, all of this waiting is going to make sense. Every practice rep he didn't get becomes part of the preparation story. Every game he didn't play becomes fuel for the motivation. Every doubt expressed about him becomes evidence of how wrong the doubters were. The spiritual dimension of this cannot be ignored. Shedeur talks openly about trusting God, about letting faith guide his path, about surrendering control of things he can't influence. That's not religious performance or media-trained talking points. That's his actual belief system, and it's shaping how he navigates this entire situation. When you genuinely believe that your career is in God's hands, that your timing is divine rather than organizational, it changes everything. The pressure disappears, the anxiety evaporates, the need to force things or manipulate situations vanishes. Most young quarterbacks in his position would be desperate for playing time, frantically working every angle to get on the field, maybe even considering requesting a trade or making noise through their representation. But Shedeur is comfortable in the waiting because he trusts the timing. He's not sitting idle. He's not passive. He's actively preparing, constantly improving, steadily building towards something that he believes is already ordained. That's a completely different energy than desperation. The Browns organization is addicted to immediate results. They want quick fixes and instant solutions and rapid transformations. But real development doesn't work that way. Championship foundations aren't built overnight. Legendary careers don't start with panic and desperation. They start with patience and preparation and purpose. Shedeur understands this at a level that transcends his age and experience. He's willing to wait for the right moment rather than force the wrong one. Kevin Stefanski is in a tough spot, and we should acknowledge that. He's fighting for his professional life, trying to validate his evaluations, attempting to prove that his judgment is sound. He took Dylan Gabriel 50 picks before Shedeur was selected, and that decision has defined his reputation. If he pivots now, if he admits that maybe the 5th rounder should be starting over his hand-picked guy, it undermines everything he's built his tenure on. So he's dug in, committed, all in on his choice. That's understandable from a human perspective, but it's terrible strategy from an organizational standpoint. Yeah, pride is expensive in the NFL. Ego costs teams championships. Stubbornness has destroyed more franchises than bad talent evaluation ever could. And right now, Cleveland is paying the price for pride disguised as conviction. They're so committed to being right about their original choice that they can't see what's obvious to everyone watching from the outside. Sometimes the best decision is admitting you were wrong and correcting course immediately rather than riding a mistake all the way to the bottom. But Shedeur isn't worried about their timeline or their politics or their organizational dysfunction. He's on a different clock, following a different schedule, operating under a different system entirely. While they're measuring success in quarters and seasons, he's thinking in terms of legacy and destiny. While they're worried about next week's game plan, he's preparing for a career that will span decades. The scales are completely different, and that's why he can remain so peaceful in a situation that would stress most people out. What's happening right now is a test, but not the kind most people think. This isn't a test of Shedeur's talent or readiness or capability. Those questions have already been answered. This is a test of character, of faith, of maturity, of whether he can maintain his center when everything around him is off balance. And he's passing that test with flying colors. Every day he shows up without complaining. Every interview where he deflects questions gracefully. Every practice where he competes without drama. He's proving something more valuable than arm strength. The league is watching this situation closely. Other teams are paying attention. Executives around the NFL are taking notes on how Shedeur handles adversity, how he carries himself under pressure, how he responds to being undervalued. That information is valuable. It's creating a reputation that will serve him for his entire career. When he eventually gets his shot, whether in Cleveland or elsewhere, people will remember how he handled this moment with grace and professionalism and unwavering faith. Cleveland fans are smart enough to see what's happening. They recognize that Shedeur represents something different, something they haven't had in decades. He's not just another quarterback prospect trying to save a failing franchise. He's a leader with substance, with depth, with a foundation that can't be shaken by external circumstances. That's rare. That's valuable. That's exactly what a team needs to turn a culture around and build something sustainable rather than just chasing short-term success. The narrative is shifting even now. You can feel the momentum building, the energy changing, the conversation evolving. What started as curiosity is becoming interest. Interest is becoming belief, and belief is starting to become expectation. People are beginning to anticipate Shedeur's moment not as a possibility, but as an inevitability. That shift is powerful because once public opinion reaches a tipping point, organizations have to respond or risk looking completely out of touch with reality. Social media amplifies everything in modern sports. One tweet can change a narrative. One video can go viral and force organizational action. One moment can crystallize public opinion in ways that front offices can't ignore. Shedeur understands this landscape better than most players his age because he grew up in it. He knows how to navigate media attention without letting it define him. He knows how to use platforms without becoming dependent on them. He knows how to stay authentic while understanding the game being played around him. The comparison to his father's journey is inevitable, and Shedeur embraces it rather than running from it. Coach Prime went through his own trials, faced his own doubters, proved his own critics wrong through excellence and faith and relentless work ethic. That blueprint is valuable. Having a father who's already walked a similar path, who understands the pressures and politics and pitfalls of professional sports, that's an advantage most young players don't have. Shedeur is benefiting from wisdom that took his father decades to accumulate. But this is still his own journey, his own story, his own mountain to climb. He's not trying to recreate his father's career or live in anyone's shadow. He's establishing his own identity, building his own legacy, writing his own chapter in the family history. And he's doing it with a maturity and perspective that suggests he's ready for whatever comes next, whether that's starting in Cleveland or finding his opportunity somewhere else down the road. The football part is almost secondary at this point because everyone who's evaluated Shedeur knows he can play. The arm talent is there, the intelligence is obvious, the leadership qualities are evident, the mechanics are sound, the decision making is advanced for his age. All of that has been established. What's being tested now is everything else, all the intangible qualities that separate good careers from great ones, that distinguish solid players from franchise cornerstones. Cleveland has a choice to make, and that choice is coming faster than they realize. They can continue protecting their ego and their preferred narrative, or they can embrace what's right in front of them. They can keep playing politics with their quarterback room, or they can build around the future that's already in their building. They can stay committed to proving they were right about their original evaluation, or they can admit that sometimes the best discoveries happen later in the draft and you have to be humble enough to recognize them. The window is narrow in the NFL. Opportunities don't wait forever. Talent can be wasted if it's not utilized properly and promptly. Cleveland has wasted enough opportunities over the years. They've squandered enough potential. They've disappointed their fan base enough times. At some point, you have to learn from history rather than repeat it. At some point, you have to break the cycle rather than perpetuate it. At some point, you have to trust what you see rather than what you hope to see. Shedeur is giving them that opportunity right now. He's offering them a chance to get it right, to make the smart decision, to build around someone who has all the tools and the intangibles to be special. But he's not begging for it. He's not desperate for it. He's simply ready for it whenever they're ready to give it to him. And if they're not ready, if they can't get out of their own way, then his moment will come elsewhere and they'll spend years regretting what could have been. That's the position of power that patience creates. When you're not desperate, when you're not needy, when you're simply prepared and peaceful, you give yourself options. You create opportunities. You attract the right situations rather than forcing the wrong ones. Shedeur has positioned himself perfectly through his faith and his work ethic and his character. Now it's up to Cleveland to decide whether they're wise enough to recognize what they have before it's too late.